In 2013, in a small town near Duluth, Minnesota, there stood an old roadside hotel called the North Pine Inn. It was the kind of place travelers stayed only when they had no other option. The paint on the walls was peeling, the lights flickered, and the hallways always smelled like damp wood and dust. Most people didn't know that 3 guests had disappeared from this hotel over the past 10 years. No bodies were ever found, and no investigation ever proved anything. This story is about the 4th guest. A normal trip. David Miller was a 28-year-old delivery driver. One winter night, heavy snow blocked the highway, and he was forced to stop for the night. The North Pine Inn was the only hotel for miles. When he entered the lobby, the receptionist was an old woman with pale skin and strange, unblinking eyes. She looked at David for a long moment before saying, "Room 417 is empty." David didn't ask why she said it like that. He signed the register and took the key. Something was wrong. The hallway on the 4th floor was completely silent. No TV sounds, no footsteps, just the soft buzzing of the ceiling lights. When David opened room 417, the room was freezing cold, even though the heater was on. He laughed nervously and put his bag down. That night at 12:47 a.m., his phone rang. The screen showed "Front Desk." David answered, "Hello?" But no one spoke. Just breathing. Slow. Wet. Heavy breathing. Then the call ended. The first knock. At 1:12 a.m., someone knocked on his door. Knock. 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 David looked through the peephole. No one was there. He opened the door. The hallway was empty. But he noticed something strange. On the floor, right in front of his door, were wet footprints. They were barefoot, and they were leading away from his room. The second call. At 2:26 a.m., his phone rang again. Front desk. He answered, angry now. "Yes?" This time, a woman's voice whispered, "He is standing behind you." David turned around. Nothing. The room was empty. When he turned back, the call had ended. He did not sleep after that. The camera recording. The next morning, David told the receptionist everything. She didn't look surprised. She just said, "You should leave." He asked about the footprints and the calls. She said, "Room 417 is not a guest room. It is a waiting room." David laughed nervously and left the hotel. But this is where the story gets disturbing. 3 days later, David's sister, Emily, received a call from the Duluth Police Department. David's truck was found abandoned near an old forest road. Inside the truck, everything was normal, except his phone. His phone was still working, and it had one new voice recording. The recording. The police played the audio. At first, it was just static. Then David's voice. "I'm in the hallway. It's dark. I can't find the stairs." Then heavy breathing. Then a different voice. "You stayed in 417. Then screaming. The recording ended. The hotel footage. Police went to the North Pine Inn. They checked the security cameras. What they saw made 2 officers quit their jobs a week later. The footage showed David leaving room 417 at 2:40 a.m. He was walking backwards. Slowly. Like someone was pulling him. But there was nothing behind him. His face looked frozen in terror. Then, right before he disappeared at the end of the hallway, a tall, thin shadow appeared behind him. The shadow had no face, but it was smiling. The truth about room 417. An old report was later found. In 1989, the hotel used to be a hospital. Room 417 was a morgue waiting room. Bodies were kept there temporarily. One night, during a power failure, a staff member went insane and locked himself inside the room with 6 dead bodies. When the door was opened 2 days later, the bodies were mutilated, and the staff member was missing. They never found him. The 4th disappearance. The hotel was shut down in 2014. But here is the final and most terrifying part. In 2022, a group of urban explorers went inside the abandoned building. One of them went live on Facebook. He walked into room 417.
The room was still cold, still dark, still silent. Then, on the live stream, people heard a phone ring. The explorer looked confused. He answered his own phone and said, "Hello?" A voice replied, "He is standing behind you." The live stream ended. They never found him. Final warning. If you ever stay in an old hotel, and the receptionist tells you, "Room 417 is empty," do not take the key. Some rooms are not for sleeping. Some rooms are for waiting.
After the live stream ended abruptly, news of the disappearance of the urban explorer spread like wildfire. People all over the internet shared the video, speculated about the mysterious Room 417, and claimed that the building itself seemed alive. But the town of Duluth, Minnesota, tried to move on. Locals whispered about the inn as if speaking too loudly would summon something. Most travelers never noticed the North Pine Inn anymore, except for the occasional thrill seeker. But one young couple, Anna and Mark Harper, both paranormal enthusiasts, decided they would explore the abandoned hotel for themselves. The arrival. It was a snowy evening in late December 2022. Anna and Mark drove up to the hotel in their old SUV. The building looked worse than in the livestream footage: broken windows, rusted signs, and paint flicking off the walls. Yet, for some reason, the front door opened easily, as if welcoming them in. Inside, the lobby was frozen in time. Dust covered the old reception desk, the guest register, and a single chair sat askew in the corner. The air smelled of damp wood and decay, the same smell David Miller had reported almost a decade earlier. "Are you sure about this?" Anna whispered. Mark smiled nervously. "We're already here. Let's just get it over with." The hallway. They climbed the creaking stairs to the 4th floor. The hallway was dark, lit only by the weak beams of their flashlights. As they walked, Mark noticed something on the wall: old hotel room keys hanging on hooks, each with a small tag. The key labeled 417 was gone. "That's odd," Mark muttered. Anna shivered. "It's like the room doesn't exist anymore." When they reached the end of the hall, they found a door slightly ajar, marked 417. Mark pushed it open. Inside, the room was freezing cold. Frost had formed on the edges of the window, and the heater looked broken. They both stepped in carefully. The first signs. Anna turned on a handheld voice recorder to document everything. At first, there was only silence. Then, faintly, a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." Anna froze. Mark laughed nervously. "It's probably just the wind." But the whisper repeated, "You shouldn't be here." It came from directly behind them. When they turned, the room appeared empty, but their flashlights flickered. For a moment, shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally along the walls. The mirror incident. Mark noticed a large mirror across from the bed. When he looked into it, he saw something that made his blood run cold. His reflection wasn't alone. Behind him stood a tall, thin figure, completely black, with no facial features, just the faint outline of a grinning mouth. Mark spun around. The room was empty, but when he looked back at the mirror, the figure was closer. Anna screamed. The recorder picked up something else, a low, guttural laughter that didn't belong to either of them. The phone call. Then Anna's phone rang. Front desk. They both froze. Anna answered. A whispering voice said, "He is waiting for you." The call ended. Mark tried to call back, but the line was dead. Suddenly, the door slammed shut with enough force to shake the walls. Trapped. They tried the door. Locked. No matter what they did, it would not budge. The temperature dropped drastically. Their breath became visible in the air. Anna shouted, "Mark, we have to find another way out." They rushed to the window, but it wouldn't open. Then the shadows on the walls began to move independently, creeping along as if alive. One shadow detached from the wall and slid toward them, growing taller with each second. Anna and Mark backed into a corner. They could hear something scraping along the floor, moving closer and closer. The recording captured something. Mark remembered the voice recorder. He held it up, hoping it would pick up evidence. The recording captured a voice that neither of them recognized. "He is inside now. You belong to 417. The shadows flickered violently. Anna screamed and threw the recorder at the wall. It shattered, but the voice kept going, faint but audible. The hallway beyond reality. Suddenly, the walls of room 417 seemed to stretch infinitely. The ceiling rose higher and higher, and the floor below seemed to fall away. They were no longer in a normal hotel room. Through the haze, they they could see the faces of previous victims, including David Miller. His face was pale, frozen in terror, his eyes wide. He mouthed something. "Don't. Stay." The shadows coalesced into the same tall figure that Mark had seen in the mirror. It moved with terrifying speed, closing the distance instantly. Anna grabbed Mark's hand. "Run!" The disappearance. The next thing they knew, they were standing in the hallway again. Room 417's door was gone. The hallway stretched endlessly. No lights, no end, only shadows. They screamed for help. Nothing answered. Then Anna tripped. She fell into a patch of darkness that seemed thicker than the rest. She disappeared completely. Mark tried to grab her, but his hands passed through thin air. He was alone. A whisper filled his ears. "Only one can leave. Choose." Mark ran blindly through the endless hallways. Every door he opened led back to 417. Every window showed only darkness. The next day, the SUV was found abandoned in the hotel parking lot. No one saw Anna or Mark leave. The police found traces of footsteps leading into the building, but none coming out. The only evidence was a single shattered voice recorder, smudged with frost. Locals now avoid the North Pine Inn entirely. The building still stands, slowly decaying in the snow, and every winter, strange phone calls and whispers are reported in the nearby town. Some say the hotel doesn't exist in reality anymore. It's a place where lost souls are trapped forever, and room 417 is the gateway. Final warning, part 2. If you ever come across an abandoned hotel in a small town, and a room number feels wrong, if the air grows cold, shadows move on their own, and whispers call your name, do not enter. Some rooms are not meant to be opened. Some doors are never meant to close behind you. It had been nearly a decade since David Miller vanished from the North Pine Inn, yet the hotel, though abandoned, had become a legend in Duluth, Minnesota. People called it haunted. Paranormal enthusiasts whispered about room 417. But no one knew the full truth, until now. This is the story of what happens to those who step into room 417 and never leave. The investigation begins. In 2023, a paranormal research team called Spectre Seekers decided to explore the inn. Their goal was simple: record evidence of the supernatural and understand what had happened to Anna, Mark, and all the previous victims. The team consisted of 4 members: Tom, the leader, experienced in haunted locations; Lena, tech specialist, who parried thermal cameras and EVP recorders; Chris, skeptic, who didn't believe in ghosts; Sophie, psychic medium, sensitive to spirits. They entered the hotel at night. The lobby was cold and silent, just like the old reports described. Dust hung in the air, and broken furniture was scattered around. As soon as Sophie stepped into the building, she froze. "It's here," she whispered. "It's waiting." The 4th floor. They made their way to the 4th floor, where room 417 had always been. The hallway was pitch black. Their flashlights flickered as if the darkness itself resisted them. When they reached the door, Sophie shivered violently. "It wants to see us. Don't open it." Tom ignored her warning. He pushed the door open. Inside, the room was frozen cold. Frost covered the window, and the bed was untouched, as if no one had slept there in decades. Sophie gasped. "They're here." The team looked around. Then from the corner of the room, a thin shadow began to materialize. It was taller than a man, featureless, but with a wide, menacing smile. The voices of the lost. Lena turned on her EVP recorder. Immediately, a voice whispered, "He is waiting. He is hungry. Stay, stay." Then came screams. David, Anna, and Mark calling for help. The sounds seemed to come from inside the walls. Chris, the skeptic, laughed nervously. "This is just sound reflection. It's..." Before he could finish, the shadows lunged at him, flattening him against the wall. He disappeared in an instant. The team realized something horrifying. Room 417 doesn't just scare people, it traps them. The infinite hallway. Tom tried to leave, but the door wouldn't budge. Sophie whispered that the room was now stretching space itself. The floor seemed to extend into a long, endless hallway lined with mirrors. Each mirror showed someone different, trapped forever. David Miller screaming, Anna begging for help, Mark frozen in terror. One mirror even reflected the team itself, but with dark versions of them, grinning, eyes hollow. "They are trapped in here forever," Sophie said, "and they're trying to make you like them." Suddenly, the shadows began moving faster, multiplying, surrounding the team. Every attempt to escape led back into the same room. the choice. The psychic explained the only way out. The room only lets one person leave. Everyone else stays, as part of it. Panic set in. "We can't leave each other," Lena shouted. But Sophie warned. "The room doesn't negotiate. If you hesitate, it will choose for you." Tom, desperate to save his team, ran toward the door. Sophie screamed, trying to stop him. As he reached the door, a shadow lunged, passing through him. He screamed. Then he disappeared, leaving only the echo of his voice behind. Lena grabbed Sophie's hand. "We have to fight it, together." The psychic's plan. Sophie realized that the room was powered by fear and souls. The shadows could only exist if the victims gave in to terror. "We have to stay calm. Acknowledge them, but not let them take us," she said. Lena hesitated. Sophie told her to speak directly to the trapped souls. "David, Anna, Mark, we see you. We are not afraid." The shadows froze for a moment. The endless hallway slowed. The mirrors began to crack. The whispers softened. But the room wasn't finished yet. The final confrontation. The tallest shadow, the original entity that had haunted the room since the 1989 Morgan incident, stepped forward. Its grin widened. "You cannot leave. You belong here." Sophie raised her hand, chanting softly. Lena repeated after her. The shadows shrieked, their forms twisting violently. Suddenly the floor splintered, and a portal-like darkness opened beneath them. It sucked the shadows in one by one. Their screams echoed endlessly. Lena and Sophie barely held on to each other as the portal closed. When it finally shut, the room was silent. The temperature normalized. The shadows were gone. Aftermath. They stumbled out of room 417. The hotel lobby seemed normal again, though old and abandoned. When they checked the recordings, the EVP captured something incredible. "Thank you. Free. At last." The voices of David, Anna, Mark, and the other victims faded away, finally released from the cursed room. Sophie warned them. Room 417 never stays empty. One day it will return. Someone else will enter. Someone else will be trapped. The North Pine Inn today. The hotel is still standing, abandoned, surrounded by snow and forest. Locals avoid it. Paranormal teams occasionally visit, but no one stays for long. The legend of Room 417 continues. Some claim to hear faint whispers in the forest near the hotel. Others report phone calls from an unknown number saying only, "He is waiting. For you." The truth is simple. Room 417 feeds on fear, trapping anyone who enters. And the shadow, the tall, faceless entity, it never rests. It waits. Always. Final warning, part 3. If you ever find yourself near an abandoned hotel, and a room number seems off, if the air is unnaturally cold, shadows move on their own, and whispers call your name, do not enter. Some rooms are not meant for the living. Some doors, once opened, can never close. And room 417 will always be waiting for the next victim.
Long before the North Pine Inn became a hotel, before it was abandoned, before people vanished without a trace, the building had a different purpose. In 1989, the structure was called North Pine Medical Facility, a small, underfunded hospital on the edge of Duluth, Minnesota. Most people had forgotten about it, but what happened inside its walls that winter night would curse the place forever. And it all began with a man named Elliot Grain, the man who hated death. Elliot Grain was not a normal hospital worker. Officially, he was a night orderly. Unofficially, he was obsessed with death. He had grown up watching his mother slowly die from a disease no doctor could cure. From that day on, he believed death was a mistake, a problem that could be fixed. He didn't believe in God. He didn't believe in heaven. He believed in control. When Elliot started working at the hospital, he volunteered for night shifts. He wanted to be close to the dead, to study them, to understand what left the body when life ended. And his favorite place in the building was room 417. Back then, it was the temporary morgue waiting room. The experiments. At first, Elliot only watched. Then he started taking notes. Then he started experimenting. He stole old medical equipment. He read forbidden books. He performed secret rituals he found in the belongings of a former patient who claimed to be an occultist. His goal was simple: bring something back, anything. He believed that if he could trap the moment of death, he could stop it. The night everything went wrong. On December 14, 1989, a massive blizzard hit Duluth. The hospital lost power. That night, 6 bodies were placed in room 417, and Elliot was alone with them. Using candles, symbols, and stolen equipment, he performed his final experiment. He didn't want to bring them back. He wanted to bring back what left them. And something answered. The door that should not exist. Witnesses later said the hospital's backup generator briefly turned on for exactly 17 seconds. During those 17 seconds, every security camera recorded the same thing. The door of room 417 disappeared. Not opened, not broken, gone. Inside, the temperature dropped to impossible levels, and something else came through. The birth of the shadow. Elliot did not summon a soul. He tore open something between places. The thing that emerged was not alive and not dead. It was absence, a shape made of fear, loss, and hunger, the shadow. It didn't kill Elliot, it used him. When the power team back and staff forced the door open 2 days later, they found the 6 bodies destroyed, the walls covered in symbols, and Elliot Crane still alive, but not empty. What Elliot became. Elliot was taken to a psychiatric facility. He never spoke again, but he would smile at nothing. Doctors said he died in 1993, but the shadow did not, because the shadow was him, or what was left of him. Why the room became a trap. When the hospital was converted into the North Pine Inn, no one knew what room 417 really was, but the room was no longer part of the building. It was a wound, a thin place between here and somewhere else. The shadow could not leave, so it learned to call. Phones, whispers, dreams, and when someone entered, it didn't kill them, it kept them. What really happened to the victims? David, Anna, Mark, and all the others. They were not dead. They were used as bricks to make the shadow bigger, stronger, smarter. Every fear they felt became part of it. Every scream fed it. Why it came back in part 3. When Sophie and Lena weakened the room, they did not destroy the shadow. They only pushed it back. Because the shadow is not a ghost. It is a scar in reality. And scars never fully disappear. The final secret. In 2019, a sealed psychiatric file was declassified. It contained Elliot Crane's last written sentence. If I cannot escape death, I will become the place where it waits. The real ending, for now. In 2025, a real estate company quietly bought the land. They planned to demolish the hotel. But during the first ground scan, workers found something impossible. There is no foundation under room 417, just a deep black hollow, like something is still breathing underneath. Final warning, part 4. If a place feels wrong, if a room feels deeper than it should be, if you hear a phone ring where there is no signal, do not answer. Do not enter. Because some places are not haunted. Some places are hungry. And room 417 is still waiting.